Everybody, I'm a little bit leery about this next part because I'm going to show you something that only does the problem halfway, but we're going to start using Get More Math a little bit, and I want you to see exactly what you're going to be looking at. So let's check it out. I've copied and pasted 3 different Get More Math questions that I'm going to have you try, and I want to show you the approach for each one of these. Now first, each one gives you a little bit of a word problem. The truth is right now we don't really need to focus on the word problem very much. What these questions are all asking is, here's a system of equations, where do they touch? Or what's the solution to the system of equations? If you're a forward thinker and you're wondering where do these equations come from, well, look at this. 2x, I bought some HABs, whatever HAB is, $2 per item, and 5y, $5 for an item, whatever alert is, and the total cost was $140, total cost was $140. Right? That's where these equations come from. Basically, you're buying one thing, you're buying another thing, and we don't know how much of each one we bought. The second equation, altogether, she bought 49 items. So we bought the 2 items, and however many of them we bought, add them together, you get 49. So that's where we get these equations from. We're going to do more with that in a future lesson, but for right now, let's move on. The other thing that I want you to see is that HABs, X, and alerts, why they use these wacky words like habs and alerts and umps and yoys, but ultimately all we really need to do is focus on the fact that the habs in this example would be X or the alerts would be Y. So down here when we ask about how many habs and alerts, we could, if we really wanted to, just say how many X's and how many Y. How many X's and how many Y's did we buy? So just keep that in mind whenever you're figuring out each item. So here we go. I'm going to focus on mostly just this equation because you're going to be either screenshotting it and throwing it into Notability or just working Notability right off the bat. I'm going to recopy, just like you should, the original problem. And then you're going to try to come up with a strategy. I'm going to go with a thinner pen. My strategy is going to be trying to get these first X's to be the same or opposite. So what I'm going to do is multiply the second equation by 2 in order to get them to be the same. So 2x means 2 times x, and 2 times y is 2 times y, and 2 times 49 is 98. And then because it's my iPad, I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy and bring it down here, all right? Or rewrite it if you're on paper and pencil. Now I'm going to subtract because if I added these, I'd get 4x, but if I subtract them, they go away, and I want them to go away. This is the elimination technique. So 2x minus 2x is 0x. I'll erase that soon enough. 2y minus 5y is negative 3y. Equal sign. 98 minus 1. There we are. 98 minus 140 is going to be negative 42. And now's the time to do a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to get rid of that 0x. We're going to finish this problem out. Divide both sides by negative 3. I'm going to get y equals 3 goes into 42 14 times. And while normally we would go plug this back in, and that would be the appropriate way to do this, I will say that since it's Get More Math, you can just answer the question. Up here in the original, remember, alerts were y's, and we just got y as 14. So we have 14 alerts. Okay, well, I only have 2 options. I have this one and I have this one. So this and this are completely out, right? The good news about this from a math teacher's perspective is you do actually have to finish the problem. I was a little bit worried that that wouldn't happen. So let's go ahead and look at, well, if I have 14 alerts, what happens then? So because I have this neatly written problem, I'm going to take my 14 and I'm going to put it into one of the 2 original equations in the y spot. And that looks like a good spot to put it. I have some space on my paper on the left-hand side, so I'm going to write x plus, instead of y, I put the 14, remember, is 49. Subtract 14 from both sides to solve for x, and x is going to be a 35, and x's were halves, so I have 35 halves, and you can probably see the correct answer is this one, 35 halves and 14 alerts. That's the approach you want to use. Pause right now if you need to write down what I just did. Once again, I rewrote the problem. I used a 2 to go ahead and get my second equation to look more like the first. I subtracted. I found one of my answers. I plugged it back in and found my second answer. So 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that I would follow. Let's keep this video short and keep it moving. This next one deals with 2 farmers. Once again, the months are in X, and the next VIPs, whatever that is the Y. And down here we have months and next VIPs. So it's important that we know which one's which. For right now, let's go ahead and leave those underlined. And while I could do this with elimination, I have to admit, this is one where graphing would normally be a good option, except I don't like the plus 100, and not everybody loves graphing. The other option would be substitution. This is a slam dunk for substitution. So even though this is in the elimination style, I might kind of mentally get this step ready, right? Take that 7x plus 10 and put it in place of the upper left-hand corner y, and then write the rest of the upper equation, minus 3x plus 100. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve this. I'm going to get rid of the smaller variable from both sides. I'm going to get rid of my constant. I'm going to divide to get rid of my coefficient. And I have x is 9. So my months are 9. So I'm looking for 9 months. And look how this one works out for me. I only have one option that's 9 months. So unless I've done some bad math, this has to be the correct answer. For the sake of argument and because I'm a math teacher, so I like to be thorough, I'm going to take this 9. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to get y equals 7 times 9, so 63 plus 10, which is 73, and notice how that matches up. So it doesn't take a lot of work to figure out that second value and be sure that we have the correct answer. So don't be scared to use don't be scared to use substitution to solve problems that look like this. Pause if you need to and copy those notes down. And last one. All right, here we go. I want to focus on that strategy that we've talked about in the past where the strategy always works. And sometimes our numbers are a little bit big, but in this one, I don't see any common X's. I don't see any common Y's. And that doesn't mean that I couldn't do it. Some of you might have an idea as to how we could do this problem right now. And if you chose multiply the top equation by 3, that would be correct because then you'd have this 2 times 3 would become a 6, and we would have common numbers, right? But what if we didn't do that, right? So I'm going to copy my 2x plus 3y is 44, or you take a screenshot. And what I'm going to do is the same strategy I've used before. I'm going to take this 2, and I'm going to write it, I'm going to write it here. And I'm going to take this 6, and I'm going to write it here, right? That's that kind of cross-multiply idea. I'm going to almost cross-multiply these. And it's not cross-multiplying, so I should be careful saying that, but that's kind of the idea. So my first equation becomes 12x plus 18y equals, now 6 times 44 is 240, 250, 264, if I did my math correctly. Now we'll do the bottom. So second equation, 2 times 6x is 12x. 2 times 8y is 16y. 2 times 122 is 244. And look at that. I have perfectly exactly the same x's. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract because that'll give me the opportunity to get rid of them or eliminate them. So 12x take away 12x is 0x. 18y minus 16y is 2y, equal sign. 264 minus 244 is 20. And as before, I'll clean this up. I'll even take out the plus because we don't need a positive. The numbers are positive by default. And y is 10. Y's were dupes. So I'm looking for dupes that are 10, 7, no, 3, no, 2, no, 10. So this must be it. And as before, if I want to be thorough because I'm a math teacher and I do that sort of thing, put the 10 in the y spot. So 2 x's plus 3 10s is 44. 2x is 14. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x is 7. And that shouldn't surprise me at all that my other number is 7. So check and done. Once again, pause the video if you need to. Before you submit, you should have, I'm going to scroll up, you should have this first example written pretty much exactly like I do with the correct answer selected. In the second one, you should have the problem done using substitution, pretty much exactly like I did with the correct answer selected. And finally, you should have this one done with that newer technique, that almost cross-multiply technique. And again, correct answer selected. All right, good luck with the Get More Math questions that are just like these. Communicate with me via email if you need some help. Otherwise, good luck.